Snow had fallen all over the ground. My hair was dyed blue for 3 days now, and I was running from home. Got as far as Lower Burnett. My mom pulled up and begged me to come back, but something had to go. There's miles and miles just freezing shoes. Trucks would honk their horns and scream fuck you, but I'd heard that before. I came walking into Wilkerson, hungry and tired. Holly let me in, and her parents said I could stay. And I really thought that I knew myself, the color of my heart and how it felt to know how my young love would never sleep. I thought that I'd be 25, famous and married. I thought that if I stayed there, she'd start to see in me. But my young love was as blind as Ray Charles and half as cold as heat. We were sleeping in the same bed. I don't know why her parents were okay with that, but nothing happened sexually. They gave me Corona, put Led Zeppelin on. We went upstairs and wrestled for fun, and she was stronger than me. We watched Gwyneth Paltrow and Ethan Hawke. Something came over me, an electric shock, and I just came alive. She said there were 4 guys who wanted a time. Said if you count me then it's probably 5. And she ran to her room and cried. And I really thought that I knew myself, the color of my heart and how it felt to know how my young love would never sleep. I thought that I'd be 25, famous and married. I thought that if I stayed there, she'd start to see in me. But my young love was as blind as Ray Charles and half as cold as heat. We didn't talk after that for years and years, till Barbara cheated and then disappeared. And then a call came out of the blue. Guitar lessons were hard to afford. Would I stop by sometime and show her some chords, like a wish coming true? We got together quick, like a dog plays fetch. She put my sticker on her car and I gave her bad sex, and we moved in with my friends. We broke up quick, she showed up with her mom. Her mom said sad day, and I asked her which one, and life felt like a grave. And I really thought that I knew myself, the color of my heart and how it felt to know how my young love would never sleep. I thought that I'd be 25, famous and married. I thought that if I stayed there, she'd start to see in me. But my young love was as blind as Ray Charles and half as cold as heat. Claudia's friend Linda, who recently died, worked with us too back when she was alive, and I threatened to take her out when I got paid. She'd laugh and say, go find someone your own age. But if you saw these two Germans, you'd know 2 things. that friendship can be hard and that Berlin ain't what it used to be. Cloudy other night we worked side by side, scraping ceilings after some violent crime, and she'd think she'd saw a ghost and asked if I had seen, stepping out for a smoke, saying Berlin ain't what it used to be. But here you are, a million miles from home, and the wall is falling, and you've changed yourself, you know. So they built some condos, so they hung up some new lights. I bet you after the sun goes down that the fucker really sparkles at night. I watch these two old Germans down scrubbing the floors, picking up human teeth from beneath the chest of drawers, and now they'd stay out all night long back when they were teens. A different guy each night, but now Berlin ain't what it used to be. But here you are, a million miles from home, and the wall is falling, and you've changed yourself, you know. So they built some condos, so they hung up some new lights. I bet you after the sun goes down that the fucker really sparkles at night. Linda quit her job and moved to LA to live with the sun, sit by the pool all day. And when she walked away, her stride was light and free, and Claudia cried, Berlin ain't what it used to be. Come play with me, we really need a drummer. Oh Scotty, old drummer, come play with me. You called me sweetheart, your hat hung low, how did you see? You listened to STP, it's the only band that you would sing. It was a long, 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 long life. Did they make you feel ashamed of your sensitive ways? Did they push you hard into the night? Oh Scotty, please forgive me, I didn't mean to be like that. If I could do it over, I would treat you better, my friend. You told me that you were getting busy, you'd have to quit the band. I saw my hard work go down the drain, and then you showed up in your pickup. I told you to get your shit and go. You tried to tell me sorry, but I just pointed down the road. It was a long, 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 long life. Did they make you feel ashamed of your sensitive ways? Did they push you hard into the night? Oh Scotty, please forgive me, I didn't mean to be like that. If I could do it over, I would treat you better, my friend. I called you weeks later but you did not answer. I left a message, let's go get a coffee. Let's make the past the past. And then they called me, told me you hung yourself from a bridge, a place you went to as a kid. And I just listened to the bus. It was a long, 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 long life. Did they make you feel ashamed of your sensitive ways? They push you hard into the night. Oh, Scotty, please forgive me. I didn't mean to be like them. If I could do it over, I would treat you better, my friend. Weeks later, I went to your Catholic funeral, and all my friends were crying, but I just listened to the church. Your parents stood up and said you're going to hell. Some friends told me they touched you when you were just a child. It was a long, 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 long life. Did they make you feel ashamed of your sensitive ways? They push you hard into the night. Oh, Scotty, please forgive me. I didn't mean to be like them. If I could do it over, I would treat you better, my friend. Come play with me. We really need a drummer. Oh, Scotty, you're a drummer. Come play with me. I was 12 and playing video games when the knock came at the door. There was a woman from across the street, and she was crying so hard she could barely speak. She's clutching her head and staring at the sky, but she pointed across the way. I followed my dad over to their door, and that's where our neighbor's boyfriend lay. Found her hanging some Christmas lights for her kids in the middle of the night. My dad held him up so he wouldn't choke on his blood, but the man was barely alive. And they lifted him to harbor view from the field of my elementary school. He didn't make it through the night, and pretty soon my neighbor and the kids had moved. And it really stuck with me the way you can lose something you love so quick. That guy really stepped up to raise her kids, and I never thought he'd end up like this. The house across the street, stay empty, stay empty. The house across the street, each family's, each family. For rent sign was coming down, another family came moving in. The two parents were morbidly obese, and they were always yelling at their kids, who ran around the block like wild wolves, dirty faces and dirty clothes. And when they wanted them home, they'd yell, "Get your fucking asses inside. Don't make me count. Don't make me find you and beat you within an inch of your life. plates would break, doors would slam, and I would wait for it all to end. It made it hard to play video games when people were beating up your friends. And once in a while they'd load into the car and the sharks would cry beneath their weight. And all the neighborhood kids would laugh, and I just wish they'd drive off and never come back. The house across the street, stay empty, stay empty. The house across the street, each family's, each family's. The house across the street, stay empty, stay empty. The house across the street, each family's, each family's. Danny's dog tore apart my hand, and I cried and I bled, 'cause I thought that he and I were friends. 'Cause I'd pet his head. Dog had a collar around his neck that shocked him if he ran. There was a tired look inside his eyes, like he'd had enough life. Tie what you love up to a tree, give it water, say it belongs to me. Maybe there's peace at night in hell, but it seems that we're not the people that we think. We're not the people that we think. A godless snake got into Ryan's yard. We beat him to death for fun, and it broke my heart, and I told my mother so. Her son, a criminal. Danny and Ryan played by the service ditch. Without me, bullshit. And Ryan's arm had been in a sling. I pushed him into the hole, and they chased me. And tie what you love up to a tree, give it water, say it belongs to me. Maybe there's peace at night in hell, but it seems that we're not the people that we think. We're not the people that we think. And on our block lived a wanted man, alone, no friends. And he was quiet but gave us friendly nods as we rode by his yard. One day the police converged upon his house. In handcuffs they brought him out. His house sat empty and his grass grew tall, and his crime grew as we talked. And tie what you love up to a tree, give it water, say it belongs to me. Maybe there's peace at night in hell, but it seems that we're not the people that we think. We're not the people that we think. The US had not nuked Japan, I wouldn't be alive today. My grandfather would have been the first to hit the shore, and he would have been the first one to get blown away. But he impregnated my grandma instead. Got up early to bake sunbeam bread, called all Asian people Japs, watched Married with Children and laughed. I'm alive because of nuclear bombs, but I can't help but think of the families that did not carry on. And I'm alive because of nuclear bombs, but it's hard to forget that I'm here, 'cause there's something so wrong. He'd work on his Model A, call me each year on my birthday, but he had a heart impossible to touch. He didn't seem interested in my life all that much, and after my grandmother's stroke, alligators brought flowers each day to her window. He remarried before her body was cold. I think my family had a hard time letting that go. And I'm alive because of nuclear bombs, but I can't help but think of the families that did not carry on. And I'm alive because of nuclear bombs, but it's hard to forget that I'm here, 'cause there's something so wrong. My mom called to tell me he'd passed, and when his service in Salem would be. But I already had a life of my own, grown far away from the things that he chose not to know. And years later my mom gave me a letter about my grandfather not killing a Japanese soldier on a smoke break when he easily could. I guess inside of his chest hid a heart that was good. And I'm alive because of nuclear bombs, but I can't help but think of the families that did not carry on. And I'm alive because of nuclear bombs, but millions of people had to die so that I could be born. And I'm alive because of nuclear bombs, but I can't help but think of the families that did not carry on. And I'm alive because of nuclear bombs, but it's hard to forget that I'm here, 'cause there's something so wrong. Something so wrong. Something so wrong. Something so wrong. I was drunk at the party when my grandmother had a stroke. She was sitting on her bed, she put her hands to her head, and she pissed herself when she spoke. She pissed herself when she spoke. The next day was Barbara's graduation. I wouldn't miss it for the world. I kept quiet about what had happened. I guess I didn't want to upset my girl. I didn't want to upset my girl. But she saw the sadness on my face, my grandmother's crippled grip. Barbara offered not to go to the party after, but I wouldn't hear of it. I wouldn't hear of it. And maybe you could sleep it off, maybe you could even cry, but I've been on this earth a while now, and some good things just have to die. Some good things just have to die. The next morning I drove to Barbara's parents' house to see how was her night. As soon as she opened the door, my heart hit the floor. I saw another man inside her eyes. I saw another man inside her eyes. She told me it was an accident. Could we please give it another try? But she was going across the sea to the Philippines. She was going for 2 months this time. She was going for 2 months this time. With Barbara gone, I taught guitar to a girl that had always been. I thought I fell in love through hell, and I told Barbara it was the end. I told Barbara it was the end. And maybe you could sleep it off. Maybe you could even cry, but I've been on this earth a while now, and some good things just have to die. Some good things just have to die. My grandma felt alone in the nursing home. I visited her one time. She tried to fix her hair as I sat with her there, but I told her she was looking fine. I told her she was looking fine. My grandfather pretty much lived there. You could find him there day or night. But my grandma had a paper that said you couldn't feed her, and he watched the dimming in her eyes. He watched the dimming in her eyes. I got up to leave her there in that room that smelled like shit. I told her I'd come back, but it just hurt too bad. Well, I guess I was a stupid kid. I guess I was a stupid kid. And maybe you could sleep it off. Maybe you could even cry, but I've been on this earth a while now, and some good things just have to die. Some good things just have to die. Mandy, we made out once at City Hall when the lights were off and everyone was home. We were right there on the front steps, and Mandy, late one night she called on me, talked on the phone in my dark room. But it got so much harder to breathe. I opened the window, felt like a shadow. I felt like death hung from my throat. Oh, have mercy. I've got to let you go. I've got a crying mind. It rattles loose sometimes. When I get sick with thought, when I've had enough, it's the only time I talk to God. It's the only time I want to be for God. Mandy, my mom drove me to emergency and asked me if I'd been taking drugs. I told her my friends were smoking bud. My heart was racing, my hands were sweating. They did a couple of tests, it felt like the ending. The results came in. They told me there was nothing wrong. I laid around for a week. I didn't answer the phone, I only watched TV sitcoms and shows about family. I got a crying mind, it rattles loose sometimes. When I get sick with thought, when I've had enough, it's the only time I talk to God. It's the only time I want to be for God. called me, once worried you were having a baby with your skinhead boyfriend. But you'd been sleeping with a Mexican. Oh, Mandy, oh, really, what can I say? You really rolled the dice this time. But it's your life, it isn't mine. Years later, you looked happy at the reunion. You were coming over to say hi. So I ducked out to get some fries. I've got a crying mind, it rattles loose sometimes. When I get sick with thought, when I've had enough, it's the only time I talk to God. It's the only time I want to be forgot. Lived in my first apartment home when I was 17. I lived there with Sarah Lou. She never slept with me. In the next apartment over lived Jeffrey, who never bathed. Sarah kissed him in the woods while I was at work, and she told me later on that day. And I almost fell over the couch. It wasn't so much that I loved her, but that she had fun and left me out. I stormed out like a crazy man. I punched the window of his VW Bug, but the only thing that broke was my hand. I busted into Jeffrey's place. He was in the dark, sitting on the couch. I screamed, how could you, man? But he got up and just ran out. So I said to go to the ER to get someone to look at my hand. But I told her not to tell me what to do, and had my mom drive me there instead. There were two guys at the ER just like me. Both of them had broken hands and girls they didn't need. They gave me a cast and sent me home to an empty apartment house and a future suddenly unknown. I drank to go to sleep, I smoked to stay awake. I had two friends move in with me, and we carried on much that way. Mine just wanted alcohol, I wore a devil mask and wings. I ate stale ramen from a pan and made sure they were scared of me. I started dating Barbara from work. She smiled a lot and listened to my band, and pretty soon it didn't hurt. Sarah's friends would drop by just because. They'd say they heard that I was dating a model, and I would tell them that I was. Poor Mike from a 6th grade camp, he was born a little strange. And every time we played Smear the Queer, he's beaten with soap in a pillowcase. And he'd cry out for us to stop, and I did, but not the other guys. And by the end of the week, he locked himself in the bathroom and cried and cried. His mom came to pick him up, and she chastised him for not making it through. She said, Mike, if you can't make it here, you won't make it anywhere. What's a mother to do? Sometimes you look at what you got, it ain't what you want. Sometimes it feels like we buried a car, we buried a car. I got called out to clean up a suicide house after it occurred. A big house in the middle of nowhere, swelled and green, surrounded by earth. The daughter came out to the porch and she signed my paperwork. Her hands were shaking so damn bad she could barely even write one word. She said her dad was losing land to the neighbor man, he thought it was all he had. She said, I guess we want a good enough reason to live. He's in the room to the back. Sometimes you look at what you got, it ain't what you want. Sometimes it feels like we buried a car, we buried a car. Hank's dad was never around and his mom was working most days. He spent a lot of time with his grandma, she was pretty much his slave. He'd say, drive me to Mickey D's, I want a Happy Meal. She'd drive without complaint, and when the drive-thru gave him the wrong toy, she would argue and get it changed. Oh, it was the death of me. He wanted everything, it was hard for me to see. But what his grandma did for the love of that kid has always stayed with me. Sometimes you look at what you got, it ain't what you want. Sometimes it feels like we buried a car, we buried a car. Drop herself with her parents and drive into the night. Turn up the dill and light a cigarette. That woman is a violent crime. Headlights on back roads, dream of my future. What's wrong with a better life? Famous and married and 25, and said night after horrible night. I'm too young to become a father, I hope a period arrives. Ash and smoke's out of the window, drive, motherfucker, drive. Sometimes you look at what you got, it ain't what you want. Sometimes it feels like we buried a car. We buried a car. Sometimes you look at what you got, it ain't what you want. Sometimes it feels like we buried a car. We buried a car.